Our next presentation brings us into a vibrant spiritual and cultural landscape, specifically into the world of Bhadrakāli worship as seen through the critical lenses of both colonial and post-colonial influence. This paper is a collaborative effort authored by Dr. Vishaka Venkat, Dr. Sandhya Shankar, and Ms. Deekshita M. Presenting on behalf of the team is Deekshita M.G., a committed young researcher working in the field of Indic Knowledge Systems with a special focus on Sanskrit, folklore and regional traditions. Deekshita holds both her bachelor's and master's degrees in Sanskrit from Chinmaya University and currently serves as a research assistant at Chinmaya Vishwavidyapeeth, Ernakulam. She is presently engaged in a significant project titled Folklores and Legends of Central Kerala Devi Temples, a socio-cultural model based on emic perspective. Her research interests have also led her to present at national conferences on subjects like Avadhanakala and cognitive function, Indian culinary texts and sustainability narratives. There's more that goes to her bio, but she's requested me to not elaborate so much. So please raise your hand for our young and upcoming scholar, Ms. Deekshita M. Deekshita. All you have to do is to do this. To move to the next slide. Yeah. All the best. 20 plus 10 minutes.
Om Shri Ganeshaya Namaha, Om Shri Saraswatyai Namaha, Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha, Om Shri Matre Namaha. Namaste. So, as Dimpleji had said, this is there are 3 authors for this paper, and I am presenting on behalf of them. So our paper, this is specific to Bhadrakāli worship in Kerala and how there's a transformation of Bhadrakāli from a fierce form to an institutionalized temple figure, and the role of colonial narratives and how there was a standardization which occurred over time. Now this is just where all goddess, the feminine energy. So from the Vedas we have the Ushas, Prithvi, who is the symbol of fertility and exuberance in Ushas. And then we have the Vedangas, there's a mention of Kali. Then in the Upanishad, so we have an Upanishad called the Devi Atharva Shirshopanishad itself. And in the Sangam Tamil literature, that is the Tolkapiyam, often the land is divided into different terrains and each of them has a guardian deity. And one of them is the warrior goddess known as Kotravai. So there also there is so how this thing changes into, so there is a mention of a warrior goddess. And now this is just a general how Kali is there in the Purana. So in the Devi Mahatmya, which appears in the Markandeya Purana, how Kali is personified as Parvati's wrath. And there she appears as Shiva's consort. That is the usual usual definition, which the usual way it is seen. Now, specific to Kerala, I'm sure in a lot of regions of India, worship has begun from sacred groves. In Kerala, sacred groves are known as Kavu. And in Kavu, there are many different deities which come in. And one of them is Bhadrakāli. Now, I am going to specifically, so Bhadra, we all know, Sanskrit, it is the protection, benevolence. So Bhadrakāli. Here, she is portrayed as Shiva's daughter, who has come out of Shiva's third eye. And it is, and here it is not as the consort of Shiva. And this story is specific to the folklore of Darika Vadham, which appears in a very rudimentary form in the Linga Purana, but in the oral traditions which has passed on from ages until now, we can see in a lot of these ritual art forms like Kalamirthu, Padayani, Teyyam, etc. This story of Darika Vadham appears in, the backbone of the story is same, but there are little differences among them. Now this Bhadrakāli is also associated with the Kalari Payate, which is the martial art form of the Nayar community. This is the basic introduction of Bhadrakāli. Now, as I had mentioned before, in Kalamalithu there were as many as 18 deities which were mentioned, and then what had happened in there was a change in Kerala's landscape, and there was slow standardization which had started occurring in the 6th, 7th century, etc. And when that started happening, temples started becoming, so there were a lot of the so-called marginalized communities who started having their own temples, and they managed the full thing, etc. Then there were the emergence of Kerala Tantra texts, which scholars are saying that probably is the reason why Kavugal has slowly transformed into kshetrams. Kshetrams are spaces which are laid down by rules, and there are certain measurements how it has to be constructed, etc. Now, in various tantra of Kerala, we have the mention of the Panchamakara. Now, Panchamakara is done in various different ways according to what marga you follow. There is also the original, I mean not the original, the literal way of it. But what had started happening was that it had like across everywhere. So and then there is also where they do it with substitutes. I will just come that to it in a while. Now there is also another tribal belief that blood is signifying fertility, fertilization. Fertility and all that. Now, there were, okay, I'll just come back to this point after this. Now, as we have seen a lot of scholars before also, there was a shift in the portrayal of goddess. So, as we can see, what are all the Christian theology, colonial theologies, and ideologies, Oriental biases, all that. She was portrayed as a fearsome, chaotic deity across India. And they always had this thing of either she is tamed or untamed, civilized, uncivilized. Always there was a binary which was going on. There was nothing beyond that. They were not able to go beyond that. Now, and because she is uncivilized, she has to be tamed. She cannot be associated with blood. All those things were happening. Then what happened was, colonization happened, and that was what we saw. And after colonization, there were laws which started coming in. Kerala Animals and Bird Sacrifices Prohibition Act was enacted, and all the sacrifices were stopped. But okay, I will just, yes. So now what happened was that when all these sacrifices and mainly it was Koli Bali, the sacrifice of cocks which happened. With that, there was also a reduction in the diversity. So there were different margas, and all that had just come into one marga. Now, Bhadrakāli, she was portrayed as bloodthirsty. Now this Darika Vadham, this Darikan is very similar to this Rakta Bija. So one drop of his blood falls down. Then there are he multiplies this. What is this thing? So in the Darika Vadham, as Bhadrakāli slits his head, she licks off the blood, so that it is just he's just his thing. Now, in this there was this interview which I read. In that, when devotees were interviewed, what do you think about Bhadrakāli and blood and etc., they were saying, no, it is not Bhadrakāli who drank the blood, it is Bhadrakāli's bhutas. It is not. So, as the colonial narratives occurred, there was a sanitization which had to be attached. So that started happening, and substitutes started happening. Blood sacrifices got substituted to Guruti. So Guruti is a very specific ritual where you have this vessel known as the Uruli. You can see that in the picture. There is lime water and turmeric is mixed, so it becomes red color. So it gives this thing of a blood, and then that is offered to the deity. And then there is also a cutting of ash guard, or the chicken is swung 3 times around the oil lamp and just offered. It is not done. So all that has happened. And then we can also see the replacement of blood with milk and oil, and then toddy with coconut water, etc. Now, what started happening is, even with the stories, Bhadrakāli and all these very folk deities started getting replaced by Puranic deities, Durga. So they were not able to accept even the folk deities. That was what started happening. And even in one text, Shesha Samuchaya, which was around 12th, 13th century, it was this thing, and it was written. In its commentary, meat, so there is a mention of meat, and in its commentary, it is said that no, there should be a substitute. Then in a later Malayalam commentary, that was after colonization, they are very specific, it has to be rice cake, so it's Ariana. So all these started happening. Now, so before I had, when I went across to a lot of temples for interviews, they said that there was Kuri Bali, that is the sacrifice of corpse which were happening until that act was there. So it was there until that time, and then it was stopped. But I know, I have witnessed that it is still happening in a few temples. It's still there. This thing is happening. Now this is a very government standardization. After the independence, there was a Devaswam board which came in, and they started taking up the family-owned temples. And I will come back. And then what happened with that is that priests were employed every 6 months. So every 6 months they used to change. So when I went and I interviewed few priests that what is the history of this deity, how did she come here? They were like, I don't know. I have just come here 1 month ago. There is no emotional connect with the deities. All that was lost. And as I have mentioned, the unique folklore of the deity, they don't know. And in this Bhadrakāli itself, in each specific temple, there are some different names which Bhadrakāli has. But right now when we go ask, they are just saying Bhadrakāli, Bhagavati, that's it. They are not specifying a little more than that. And each deity has a Mula mantra, Bija mantra, which is there. And even that has been homogenized as just the same across all the temples. Yes, so a roarback is what also the theme of the conference. Now in one temple, there was a law dispute going on whether that temple has to be, Devaswam board was supposed to take it, but somehow the temple authorities got the information that at around 3 o'clock that particular day, 3 a.m. in the morning, the police along with so many jeeps were supposed to come. So this information spread, and all the devotees surrounding the temple came to the temple, and they stood in front of the entrance and they did Namajapam. They kind of restricted around 13 police jeeps, around 200 police people had come, and they had restricted, and the Devaswam board taking it away was kind of, at least for that time, it was delayed. So till now it has not been taken. So this was a kind of roarback, and also all these very folk ritual art forms like Kalamarthu, Theyam, Padayani. After the colonization, all these ritual art, artists, they were not able to survive on that art. But from the beginning of 21st century, it has started becoming even more famous, and now we can see across Instagram there are different types of Theyam which comes in, and Instagram, Facebook, and even across a lot of this thing. So there has been a re-emergence of these ritual art forms, and so they are able to survive. They are able to more than survive, not only those art forms. So these were the things which I wanted to say, and yes, there is a roadback which is happening. Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Do we have any questions from the audience? Oh. So Deekshita is a part of a three-member team. She may be able to answer every question, or she may want to take that question back, and perhaps we can get back later. So please feel free to ask your question, but just making sure that you know that she's one of the three.
Well, the obvious question here is the implications for the ongoing debate about government control of temples. I mean, does this suggest that it should be there, that it's a beneficial thing, or the contrary? I mean, I know quite a few traditionalists who will point at your talk and present it as proof that it has a negative influence.
Yes, sir. So, what I have understood is that I have gone to very, very small temples who are in the interior part of the village, etc. And when I interviewed them, they said when the government, so there was an adjacent temple which was taken away by the government, the temple is going into more poverty than what it was before. So that was happening. But then there is also another view in all these very famous temples that is not happening, because I think there are more people which come, and if at all there's anything which happens, I think government will be responsible. But in all these small temples, what I have understood from all the interviews is that they are not able to manage the administration if the government is taking it up. That is what I have understood.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Hello. About 15 days ago, I had the great blessing that I was able to visit the famous seat of Tantra, Kamakhya. And there, the tradition of sacrificing the mahish or the buffalo is being practiced. In fact, the day I went, they sacrificed 7 buffaloes.
Oh.
Now, that has been partially taken over by the government, and yet the tradition of, the English word blood sacrifice,
Yes.
or what we would call as bali,
Bali.
is continuing.
Yes.
So I think it is a very complicated issue
Yes, sir.
where you have sufficient people who are themselves in the government and therefore cannot impose a Semitic or a Christianized concept of reformed Hinduism onto the Tantra tradition. There, these things are still going on in according to the tradition, according to the Agam Shastras of the Tantra Marga. But in places where Hindus have been reformed or quote unquote enlightened, in my view, Semitized, this is not happening. There, the problem which you mentioned exists more. And about Teyam,
Yes.
about 30 years ago, I went in the holy period when the Teyams come, which is Navaratra
Yes.
of, the Navaratra in October.
Yes.
That's when they have I was there for about almost 2 or 3 weeks and photographed the whole thing. At that time, the Teyams were more effective
Okay.
And I witnessed all nights that it was not a show, but it was a religious ritual.
Yes, sir.
Because the people came, the Teyyams came, they worshipped the Teyyams cured the people.
Yes.
Until morning this thing went on, and then the Teyyam would, come out of his costume. So that is declining. I am told now, I haven't been to that area again, which is in North Kerala, but I am told that the number of Teyyams is reduced.
Okay.
Maybe it has increased in some other area, but at least. So both these currents are continuing.
Right.
The pristine, call it pristine or call it native or call it rural Hindu practice, and the reformed, bureaucratic, political, Semitized practice.
Yes.
Would you agree?
Yes, sir. I agree.
From what you are saying, Deekshita, I see that post-independence only there is more
Yes, sir.
anti-animal sacrifice law and
Yes, sir.
all that.
Yes, sir.
So your allegation is not against the British but the Brown Sahibs, right? So the Sipais of the British that are continuing after independence. Right. In one place in Godavari districts of Andhra Pradesh, in a place called Peddapuram, in a temple of a goddess called Satyamma, which is taken over by the government, I saw one board, very interesting board. Buffalo, this much. Goat, this much. Chicken, this much. Then I asked the officer there inside, so you are taking charge, dakshina for buffalo sacrifice, goat sacrifice and all that. Actually it meant only that, but the officer is playing the double game. When the government officials come, he says, this is a charge for rearing a buffalo, rearing a goat, rearing a cock. But when the devotees come, he says it is the charge for sacrificing those animals.
Question? Somebody?
I think Srinivas ji.
Hello, Deekshita, Sandhya. Just a few questions in the act that you mentioned. Is there any institutional resistance to that now in that area? They're trying to fight it legally and...
Actually, even in 2022, in the Kodungalur temple, which is like known as the seat of Bhadrakāli worship, even in 2022 during the Meena Bharani Utsavam, which happened, there were like two oracles, Valichapada we call them, and they like in their, so they are kind of, Bhadrakāli comes into them, and in that rigor they just kind of sacrificed 2 cocks and they were sent to jail. But there were a lot of articles which said that, if you are able to cut animals for other religious purposes, why not this?
Exactly.
So there's no resistance as, I mean, from my limited knowledge, that is...
Act itself, yeah. Yeah. The legislation is post-colonial actually, so I was wondering why that is happening. Also...
Yes.
Also, one more small thing. You talked about the Nama Chaitanya that has lost, and now she is referred only to as Bhadrakāli or Bhagavati.
Yes.
So, where it does then is an exercise to revive those names, or can you clear that point? First of all, what exactly happened? If you can elaborate on that. Thank you.
So, in all these interior, very small temples, see, because it is, we for a fact know that there were different names, but we don't know what those names were because it is essentially lost. So, because those names, so when we ask them, I don't know if they know and they are not willing to reveal to us, but what we have understood is that it's just Bhadrakāli, Bhagavati, etc. So what I have understood is that when she is not worshipped in her own name, then there will be some reduction, is what I have understood in her power, energy. So, anything else?
Wonderfully presented, Deekshita, and I think she's the only one presenter who timed her presentation well, so she finished it in 20 minutes and gave enough opportunity for interaction with the audience. So thank you for that and well done.